Hi, I'm Lin.
And I'm Leo. Welcome back to Yoga with Lin and Leo.
And today we've got a very nice routine, specially designed for complete beginners.
Yes, and this particular routine starts out with dog pose, Adho, Mukha, Svanasana. So be on your mats. You may need a bit of equipment just before we start. So a brick, a belt, I'm sitting on the two foam pads, and we have a Zaffus cushion here, but any cushion or a folded blanket would be fine for that.
Okay, so you're ready to release the tension and come into Adho Mukha Svanasana. So Leo's going to start in this kneeling position, which is really a nice way to start off with Adho Mukha Svanasana. So we're going to come into this several times. So do remember with yoga, you build on the sequencing. So as we go into it for our first time, we're going to make the shape. So press down into your palms and lift up, tuck your toes under and lift up. So we're coming into the shape. And gradually over time, the shape will expand and extend. So of course we cannot expand and extend the bones, but we aim to get lots of length in the muscle fibre, so this is really key. Now how do we do that? As a complete beginner, sometimes it's hard enough just coming into the poses. You'll feel it in your body maybe. If you're a little bit stiff in the hips and the lower back, that's quite a common place for people to be very tight. So what we have to remember is that when we come into this pose, we have to press down very strongly in the wrist to the palms, and then push the whole body back towards the back legs. And see how that feels. Be aware of your legs, pushing those legs away towards the end of the mat. And then we're going to release and just take a breather. So bend your knees again. So when you go up this time, now you know the shape, Adho Mukha Svanasana, dog head down. You have to see that you get length in your tailbone. So this area here lengthens and the frontal pelvic rims lift up. So what you don't want to do is to over poke, so you come into this shape. I know sometimes that can be a popular action, but we don't work in that way. We just have to see that we lift the pelvic rims up. So tuck the toes under and come up now. Now what you're aiming for this time is to lift inside the leg, and to do that you need to lift up through the foot. So you press down onto the ball of the foot and lift those heels up, because you want to lift the heels to lift these buttocks. So this is really quite an important action. So remember that the more you lift that buttock, the more you will be able to extend your spine. When this is dropped, we'll just show you a picture, then you can see that the whole framework is a lot shorter. So although you may see in some photographs or books that the heels are down, that is a long-term goal, but quite often when you start yoga, you've got to work with your muscle fibers to get that length to be able to extend through the whole of the body. So release down again. Just be there, take a few breaths. We're going to come one more time. It's always good to repeat several times this pose. We come back to it time and time again, but it's really good to release some of the tension in the spine. So press down now, observing the wrist, push into the palms, and now lift up. Tuck your toes under and lift up. So now we established that we need to have a lot of height in the pose, so this is quite key. So extending the buttocks as far as you can so that you pull up the whole of the front of the leg. The whole of the kneecaps have got to lift up, whole of the thighs got to lift up, and then at the root of the thigh, at these creases, you have to see, can you push the whole body back? Can you push the legs back at those creases? So that's quite a challenging one, and maybe something you'll have to work on to get a little bit more action. Alright, now bend the knees, and this time we're coming into Adho Mukha Virasana. We're just going to rest the buttocks down onto the heels and just rest there forward just for a few moments. so that you can recover. So when you're in this position, you can ground down with that buttock. If the buttocks are lifted, and you've been watching some of our videos, then you'll know that you always need to have some sort of traction so that you can push against, push from. So if your buttocks are lifted, then you need to just reach onto a foam pad or cushion, something between the heel and the buttock itself. And just take a few breaths. Extending your arms, breathe through your nostrils, just feel that breath. Feel the whole of the upper chest region. Okay, and now release it. So we're going to come into standing position. Now, when you come from a grounded action into a standing action, just take your time with this, because sometimes we can do it too quickly. It doesn't feel so good. So just come up slowly and stand on your mat. Stand in the center of your mat. So we're coming into Virabhadrasana 2. So this is when we make an angle with our leg. So we start in a Tadasana action. So being in your mountain pose, grounding down into the legs, lifting up out of the pelvis, lifting the side waist, lifting through the chest, rolling your shoulders back and down, and breathe. Now taking your fingers to the chest, and then you're going to jump the legs apart. Jump. And extending through the arms. Now keep that lift as if you're in your Tadasana. Move the diaphragm away from the pelvis so you get extra height, extra lift. And then turn your left foot in and your right foot out. Okay. Now we're going to take a nice deep inhalation as we extend and make the square with the front leg. Now keep that action, keep lifting out of your pelvis, and then look along your palms, reach into your back arms strongly, and just be there for a few moments, rounding down into your back leg and lifting up, and then come up. So in the very beginning, when you come into this pose, it's quite difficult to get the stability because we've got to work in that Tadasana action a lot to get that lift and understand that lift. So when you come into this pose, you are supporting the torso. The torso gets very heavy and then you just keep on going down. So you want to see that there's a separation in the body. So turning that right foot in, the left foot out, and then lifting up. Now make sure you get that lovely broadness from the arm extension, and then bend your front leg. Now, see that you push back into your back leg strongly, lift up through the sideways, lift the sternum, chest, and breathe. Now turn to face your left palm. So being in that position, can you hold it? And then take a breath in and come up. Turning the feet to face forward and jump the legs together. And recover in Tadasana. So the Virabhadrasana 2 action can be challenging, but do practice it. Repeat the sequencing. We're going to come into a few more poses now, but Parsvakonasana is our next pose. So it's another angle pose. So we're going to use a brick for this action.
Front of the mat.
Yeah. So lifting up nice and tall. So we described Tadasana. It is translated into mountain pose. So we come back to this pose and we're quite particular about it. As we practice it more and more, the subtlety comes. So take your weight right back into the heels and feel where your weight is distributed. And when you feel that you want to pick up that lower abdomen and lift through the spine. This is something you've got to recreate in all of the poses. So this is a bit of a challenge. It might take you a few years to get the hang of that. Now taking your fingers towards your chest. Breathe. And now jump the legs. Extending in the arms, turning the feet again. So it's similar pose, but we're going to lengthen now into Parsvakonasana. So if you've been on our foundation course, then you'll understand some of these poses or recognise some of these poses. Bear the front leg into an angle. And now lengthen the whole of the side waist and take the hand down onto the brick. Take the top hand onto the hip. Now press into your back leg strongly and roll the top shoulder back. Roll the top shoulder back. Soft inhale, soft exhale. Now, see if you can take the top arm up and take it over. Now, as you extend into your back leg, be sure you're getting the Tadasana action with the front of the body, and then take a breath in and come up, out of the pose, and come up. So we're not in the pose too long. So coming out and coming to the other side. And now turning the feet. And lift up again, get that Tadasana action, and then bend that front leg, bend the front leg, and then go into the pose completely, extend down onto the brick, and then take your arm over. So for some of you, you may be able to go down a little bit lower than this, but what you have to recognize is that the symmetry and the alignment becomes very important. And make sure that this outer buttock of the back leg is moving strongly in, and the back leg is pushing down. Sometimes when you go into the full pose, then the fibers aren't long enough to do. So you want to gradually start to open the body through time. Take a breath in and come up. And turning the feet eventually, and then jumping the legs together. And stand in Tadasana. Okay, so we're coming into some of the floor work now. So we're coming into Supta Panagustasana. So when we come into this pose, we're going to be in a supine action. So some of you may be familiar with this pose. Oh, okay. I mean, Leo's got a bit stuck to the wall today. For some reason, we've got the mat closer to the wall. Now, these little adjustments become very important. So soften your belly and then extend your legs. Keep your belly soft, and before you do that last straightening action, lift out to the pelvis. That's it, and then release down. Alright, so we're going to bend the right leg first. So bend your right leg and place the belt around. And you have to keep an eye on this left leg. So what's very important when you practice yoga, that it kind of transforms it into a yoga practice, is when you bring your concentration into your pose. So you have to concentrate on this downward leg. Although you are head in your mind, you know you've got to lift this leg. You have to see that you're not working with any one particular body part. You have to make sure that the whole body is working, and that's what takes the time. So when you extend the leg, you have to see that it's grounding down, and then you stretch the top leg up. Now be mindful that some of you will find taking your leg to 90 degrees a bit of a challenge. So to get the straight leg, you can bring the leg back. Now be sure that it's straight. You're pulling up your kneecap, you're pushing into your belt. Even if you find this easy, it's quite good to start from this point, because you get this understanding of sinking these frontal thigh muscles into the bone, and then extending up. Now walk along the belt with your arms, make the arms nice and straight, and pull on that belt, so you get a little bit more awareness in the legs. So that's if you're able to. The hamstrings are very tight, then it may be that you are. It's enough to just take the leg to 90 degrees. And then release the leg. So we come now for the left leg. And bending the knee, and then place the belt around, and then lift the leg. Soften the abdomen, and again you can see Leo is doing this lean in action, pulling up the kneecap and thigh. Be sure you don't take your focus off this grounded leg, that's got to work strongly, and then you've got to bring that leg up. it's almost like it becomes quite a heavy weight. Weight is really important in practice. We start to manipulate the body when we can weight the body down so strongly. So we've got to find the anchors. The anchor at this moment in time is this lower leg. But also we have to see that these front thigh muscles are moving strongly away from the abdomen and be there for a few moments. So you can practice this part of the sequencing several times, do a couple of leg lifts. This is absolutely fine. And even try to write the sequence down, because then you can do that without having to watch the video once you actually get the hang of it. And then really still. Okay, roll to your right side. Now we're going to come for a Virasana action. Now Virasana can be quite challenging because it's in bent knee position. Now some of you may be able to come into a Virasana action and sit between your ankles. This we don't find so common in the studio. We tend to find that people's hips these days are quite stiff because of maybe a lot of computer work, whatever it might be. So to mobilize within this action, we have to see that we grip the inner feet towards the front pads. And then sit back into your position. You can see here that Leo is making space in the back of their knee. This is very important. And the little toes move down to the floor so that the foot is creating its own traction. It's becoming anchored to the floor. And then you can use your hand to be sure that you're making these actions. You can press on your hands onto your feet so you're getting a nice opening there. Roll your shoulders back and down and lift through the centre of the body. Now we're coming into Parvatasana. So interlocking the fingers, so you interlock in this way, and Leo's going to turn around. Yeah. So when you're sitting on support for a long period of time, then it's good to sit a little bit higher. Quite often, if you can even sit between your heels, it can get quite challenging. Interlock your fingers and then extend your palms forward. Now, as you extend your palms forward, you have to see that you make space in the shoulder, so then you take the arms up. And then you try to release the shoulder blades down, so that's really an important action. So remember, there's never a one-way direction, it's always two ways in yoga, and extending up. And this is what makes it so interesting to find those fulcrums and to find the strength in the body. And then releasing the arms down. Now when we change the interlock, it's just the little finger changes. You can see here on Leo's demonstration that the little finger changes side and then extending forward and straightening your arms and extending up. Now go and push up through the centre of the arm all the way up to the palm, lift up through the side waist, front, back, working very strongly and lifting up. And breathe, don't forget to breathe. So remember the shoulder action, releasing the backs of the shoulders down. So it's not just one direction, the arms going up and the tops of the shoulders, the back of the shoulders move down. And then release in and extend the legs out. And straighten the legs. So we're coming for our next pose, and you will need to have a little bit of support. We're going to take the legs up the wall. So Viparita Karini. So we're going to use the cushion. So you're going to just get as close to the wall as possible. And this is just such a lovely pose. But be sure that if you bounce away from the wall, that you try to get yourself moving quite close to the wall. And then place the Zappos cushion underneath, or if you haven't got a Zappos cushion, a cushion underneath your buttocks, just give you a little bit of height. But then buttocks to the wall again, And then place the belt. As you can see, Leo has buckled the belt, and it's quite a small loop around the lower legs, and then just let the legs release into the belt in that position. And you can just rest here for a while. Just let the whole body release, the abdomen, the upper body, the facial features, the breath. So we're going to leave you in this posture to just relax. And we hope you enjoyed our video, and we look forward to seeing you again very soon. Namaste.